This week on Culture Q,
Met Gala stars stand up for trans rights.
we chat with the guys behind Racing Pride.
And the first Black queer White House press secretary is here.
What is going on? It is Lalwani here.
And I'm Shira Lazar. This is Culture Q.
And here are some of the highlights from this week in queer culture. Last week, stars showed off their best couture looks at the 2022 Met Gala, and for some, it was a prime moment to speak about some important issues. The night's theme, Gilded Glamour, was executed perfectly by some of our favorite LGBTQ icons like Janelle Monáe, Ariana DeBose, MJ Rodriguez, and Tessa Thompson, just to name a few. But one member of queer Hollywood stood out from the rest for all the best reasons. Actress Tommy Dorfman, best known for her role in Netflix's 13 Reasons Why, was seen in a gorgeous deep green Christopher Gain gown and a matching bag with the words, "Protect Trans Kids," written across the front.
What do you want to say to those trans kids in Texas?
I want to say that you are loved, you are valued. I'm hoping that trans women like myself and trans people on these carpets help you feel seen as much as possible and know that it does get better and that we're here and we're supporting you all the time.
Dorfman, who proudly came out as a trans woman last year, feels that representation on such a massive platform could be life-changing.
I think trans representation, if I had had it as a kid, if I had seen it on the carpet as a kid, would have really helped me understand myself.
But Tommy wasn't the only person sharing support for the trans community on the red carpet. She was joined by the LGBTQ's favorite set of celeb parents, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. And they had some great advice for all the parents of trans children.
The moment when you were in the hospital and you grabbed your daughter and you looked at your daughter and all the things that went through your mind, all the emotions that went through your mind and how much love filled your heart at that moment. Don't let that ever leave you, no matter what. Like, the one thing as parents, what we do is we find our mini-me's and we try to make them just like us. We just understand, like, our kids are going to be who they are.
Union and Wade's daughter, Zaya, came out as transgender 2 years ago. And the couple have been shining examples of how to support and parent a child who transitions.
The hit HBO Max show Hacks returns this week, and it's setting LGBTQ representation center stage.
There she is, Deborah Vance.
Hey, Jimmy.
Good God, you look amazing. What moisturizer do you use? I use Vaseline.
Jimmy.
The series follows a seasoned stand-up comedian, Deborah Vance, as she struggles to take a comedy newcomer, Ava, under her wing. And it swept at last year's Emmys, taking home the gold for Best Writing, Best Directing, and Best Comedy Series. But the real win is that most of the show's main and recurring cast are queer performers. Hannah Einbinder, who is bisexual both in real life and in her character on screen, thinks that the show has done a lot in terms of representing bisexual women in an authentic light.
I liked that the representation was not did not dwell so much on it because it allowed us to see sort of a bisexual person as fully formed and realized and going about their life.
But Hannah's character isn't the only queer representation on screen. There's Deborah's assistant, played by openly gay actor Mark Indelicato, her chief of operations, portrayed by non-binary actor Carl Clemens Hopkins, and their love interest, John Sibley, and her go-to blackjack dealer, played by queer actor Poppy Lou. Lou was recently interviewed by Out Magazine and gushed about the atmosphere on set, saying, "With my LGBTQ+ castmates, it just feels like home. It feels like these are my people. I can exhale. I don't have to be performing a version of myself that I'm not." One of the show's breakout stars is comedian Meg Stalter, who you might recognize from this viral Pride Month video.
Hi, gay. Happy Pride Month. We are sashaying away with deals.
Stalter is openly bisexual. I told you, this whole cast is queer. And she praised the way the show has handled more nuanced LGBTQ storylines, saying, "We all need the stories of coming out. But it's really cool to see a show where the queerness is part of who we are, but it's not the focus of the show." You can catch the first 2 episodes of Hacks Season 2 streaming right now on HBO Max.
This week, I got the chance to sit down with Tom O'Gorman and Richard Morris to talk about Racing Pride, an LGBTQ rights charity making big changes in the motorsports industry. Richard, why was Racing Pride started?
I was always a big fan of motorsport. I loved watching racing on TV. I used to push cars around the living room floor, all that kind of stuff. I got into kart racing in my teens, For me, that was a stage where I was also starting to realize that I might be LGBTQ+, and to think about that and to become aware of that. And at the time, the kind of imagery that I'd seen from motorsport previously and the drivers that I looked up to, I couldn't see anything that encouraged kind of LGBTQ+ people or made me feel like this would definitely be okay to do together. And I was seeing other sports do lots of things to promote inclusion. And I just thought, it's probably a little bit ridiculous that I feel so isolated. I'm sure there are other LGBTQ+ people in the sport. And I'm sure there are people who want to be allies and encourage everyone in. What we need is just to create a group and something that people can get on board with to show that community and show that allyship. So that's really where Racing Pride came from.
Question to the both of you. How are you both trying to bridge the gap between the racing industry and the LGBTQ community?
It was really tricky, honestly, almost more in finding my way in the gay community or in the LGBT community before I was able to find myself in the motorsports community, because I did one before the other. So I've more been finding my way in that LGBT community within the last 2 or 3 years. And it's been really empowering to have groups like Racing Pride, Out Motorsports, those types of groups to give me that kind of access within a realm that I'm comfortable with almost with racing to present my LGBT side of my life.
Most people in motorsport want to create an inclusive sport. And I think how we're kind of bridging the gap is in a really positive way, trying to promote role models and potential role models like Tom, like all of our ambassadors, who some are drivers, some are in other roles in the sport, in the media and engineering and mechanicking and all the sort of roles in motorsport. We're trying to break down that feeling of being the only one and to give young LGBTQ+ people, even old LGBTQ+ people, people they can see in this sport who are like themselves. And really for the first time ever in motorsport, to speak directly to the LGBTQ+ community as well. You know, I think, as I say, there were plenty of allies in our sport, but no one had ever directly said to LGBTQ+ fans, you're valued, you belong here. And that's really what Racing Pride is trying to do.
What message do you want people to take away from what you're both doing right now?
As far as I'm concerned, it's all about giving somebody else the opportunity to come into motorsports in a place that they are comfortable with, cars, with racing, with whatever it may be, and be welcomed. And I take a lot of pride in being somebody that maybe is kind of breaking the mold with that a little bit and being the first gay person that somebody may know at the racetrack. And if I'm the one that breaks the barrier so that somebody else can come in 5 years from now and be who they want to be and no one else thinks it's weird, then that is a huge win.
Yeah, I mean, I think something I'd want to say is the things that you love in life and that you're passionate about and that you really want to do, you have to be yourself in those environments in order to fully appreciate them, fully enjoy them, and to really have the success you're looking for. And I want to encourage people that if they want to come out now within the sport, there are people out there who will support you. You know, I won't lie to you, there are people who won't, but there are also organizations like Racing Pride and individuals like Tom who absolutely will support you. And it's also positive for everyone in the sport. My team has benefited from that. All the people around me have benefited from that. So, you know, this isn't about kind of dramatically changing motorsport. It's just about making people who are already in the sport have the best possible experience of it that they can and opening the sport up to as many people as possible, which is just a win-win for everyone.
And of course, thank you again to Tom and Richard for taking the time to chat with us. This is such an amazing organization. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about Racing Pride, you can head to racingpride.com.
And now it's time to take a look at all the LGBTQ news you need to know. Leading the stories this week is some exciting news for a change. Karine Jean-Pierre is set to take over the role of White House press secretary at the end of this week. Jean-Pierre will make history when she steps up to the podium as the first Black and openly queer person to ever hold the position. With a background in public affairs for MoveOn.org and as a political analyst for MSNBC, she's recently served as Principal Deputy Press Secretary and Deputy Assistant to the President since Biden entered office in 2021. Tweeting about the news, Jean-Pierre said, "It is a true honor. I look forward to serving this administration and the American people." Casey Scott, an art teacher in Florida, was fired this week when she answered students' questions about her identity. During an art project where some of her students chose to draw trans and non-binary flags to represent their identity, the conversation turned to Scott, and she answered honestly, telling the students she is pansexual. After the conversation and hanging the students' artwork, the school took action.
I got a call from administration saying that, well, at this time, we are releasing you from your contract.
All of this comes in the wake of Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, and unfortunately, we are already seeing the devastating consequences. A leaked Supreme Court document indicated that Roe v. Wade could be overturned, potentially putting abortion rights in jeopardy. The news sent shockwaves throughout the country, leading to protests, marches, and people sharing their own experience illustrating how essential access to safe and legal abortion is. Queer singer-songwriter Phoebe Bridgers opened up in the wake of the news, tweeting, "I had an abortion in October of last year while I was on tour. I went to Planned Parenthood where they gave me the abortion pill. It was easy. Everyone deserves that kind of access." Many have also pointed out that this is not just an issue impacting cis or hetero women, but many members of the LGBTQ community, and that overturning reproduction rights could be a very slippery slope to marriage equality and beyond. And if you want to get involved, just look for protests and marches happening near you or donate to your preferred abortion fund. And that's your look at all the LGBTQ news you need to know.
Next up, we're bringing you our weekly Revry Streaming Guide because there's so much good content here 24/7. Here are a few new releases to check out. First up this week is Haunters, and just in time for Friday the 13th. This musical comedy series tells a story of a bully named Iggy who dies unexpectedly and must haunt people just as wicked as her if she wants to escape purgatory. With 14 original songs, this spooky comedy is sure to keep you laughing. Next up is a 2017 drama, Women and Sometimes Men. The film follows Sarah, who after ending her one-day engagement to a man, longs to recapture the fun of her college days when she had a short relationship with a woman. Sarah finds herself on a journey of self-discovery as she confronts dating, sexuality, and her own identity. And to round things out this week, we have the historical documentary Vito. Centered around Vito Russo, a gay activist often called the father of the gay liberation movement, this Emmy Award-winning documentary gives us a glimpse into the life of the author of The Celluloid Closet as he fought for gay rights in the height of the AIDS crisis. Remember, you can find all these titles and so much more streaming right now, right here on Revry.
A queer advocacy group in Alabama is taking matters into their own hands by standing up for trans rights as the state continues to strip them away. The Knights and Orchid Society, or TKO Society, has become a safe haven for Black, trans, and non-binary folks amid a wave of anti-trans legislation that has swept the state. Founded in 2012 by Quentin and Janine Bell, the Selma-based group aims to administer the support and resources that the community needs and that the government is failing to provide.
We're the only one doing this work. We're the only organization with the courage to do it in Selma. It's almost like you're standing up and saying, the audacity of TKO to be out in the Bible Belt, the birthplace of the civil rights movement.
In 2017, TKO Society opened an STI clinic, becoming the first and only in the state of Alabama run by Black, trans, and queer people.
Every day I have to show up and be intersectional. Whether it's my Blackness or my queerness, or if it's just living in the South and rural. The lack of resources has been so tremendous that it's pushed us to keep going, because we not only do we have to deal with the discrimination for being who we are and who we sleep with, but we also have to deal with discrimination for the color of our skin.
In addition to that, the group offers gender-affirming care, peer support groups, accessible housing, a food pantry, and more. TKO's communications director, Christina Nicholson, spoke about the center, saying, "The health and wellness services that we offer are unique to the community that we serve, which is mostly transgender residents of Alabama." And these folks are just as active outside of the center, showing up and fighting for their community by sitting down with lawmakers and sharing their experiences.
I identify as non-binary. So when I go into establishments, I hold my ear because I don't want to be harmed. And it has happened. It has happened. So when you hear these different stories, especially for Black trans folks, let's keep it above, like it is different. It is different.
After the most recent anti-trans law went into effect, criminalizing gender-affirming care for trans youth, TKO has a clear message saying, "Our work does not start or stop with the signing of these bills. We'll always support trans youth." Wow, TKO is such an amazing group. And of course, if you want to learn more, get involved, or donate, you can head to tkosociety.com.
Absolutely. And with that bit of information, it is time to end our show today. Is Lalwani signing off.
And I'm Shira Lazar. Thanks again for hanging out with us this week.
And of course, be sure to check out Culture Q each and every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, live and always on demand, right here on Revry.